Hello and welcome to Camp Nightmare Fuel. My name is Barb Hartman and I'm one of your camp counselors. Before I get started on tonight's episode, let's say hello to my fellow camp counselors, Lord Starfox and Brian Barber. Lord Starfox and I created Camp Nightmare Fuel together. Starfox is an investigative journalist, a member of the NADP, the North American Dogman Project. He's also the host and creator of Midnight Lycanthropy, which can be found on pretty much all platforms. He is the founder of the Midnight Society, which is a compilation of researchers, scientists, investigators, and others with specialized areas of expertise, who are co-hosts with Starfox on Midnight Lycanthropy. Lord Starfox, how are you doing this evening?
Well, first off, what a lovely little kudos right there. I appreciate you. That's some excellent stuff. I'm good.
I know a little bit about you, you know.
This is good. I appreciate it all. And I got locked in my casket for a bit, found the key finally. And then as I was making my way through the dark forest to come hang out with y'all, I decided to fall into a cavern and then, some first world problems today, but we're here.
Oh, well, we're so glad to have you. We're glad you made it out of your coffin and through the woods. No, good to have you. Good to talk to you as always. Brian Barber is a Bigfoot researcher and experiencer. He's a co-host on Midnight Lycanthropy and a member of the Midnight Society. He's also a co-host on my show, Open the Door, and a host on the Bigfoot Outlaw channel. He can be found on Facebook and on YouTube, where he runs the Bigfoot Barbershop channel. Brian, how are you doing tonight?
Doing really well. Thank you so much for the biography. You know more about me than I do at that point.
I know a little bit about you too. Yeah, welcome. And I'm glad to always sit down with the three of us, and we always have a great time. So as I said prior, I'm Barb Hartman, and I'm going to give a little shameless plug, as JJ Messenger would say. I'm also a Sasquatch researcher. I'm the creator and host of my show, Open the Door to Bigfoot and More, on my channel, Barb Hartman, No Drama, Bigfoot and Cryptids, which can be found along with my evidence videos on several social media platforms. I'm also a co-host on Midnight Lycanthropy and a member of the Midnight Society. So let's get right down to it. Tonight's episode is called The Day It Rained Flesh, Oakville's Creepy Downpour. So I'm going to take us back to August 7th, 1994 in Oakville, Washington. Oakville is a quiet little town in the southwest part of the state. But on that summer morning, something fell from the sky that would terrify the locals, make them sick, and leave behind one of the strangest mysteries in modern history. Instead of raindrops, it fell as blobs, clear, gelatinous clumps, soft, squishy, and utterly unexplainable. Oakville isn't the kind of place you'd expect to end up in a horror story. It's a rural, like a kind of sleepy little logging town with a population of less than 1,000. But at 3 a.m. that morning, a storm rolled through. And Oakville gets a lot of rain. However, this was not normal rain. When the sun came up, residents found their houses, their cars, even their yards completely covered in these strange little blobs. Imagine going outside after a storm expecting puddles, but instead your lawn is coated with something that looks like pieces of clear flesh. That's just so gross. According to Oakville resident Sunny Barcliff, the clear jelly ran down from the sky in flecks of goo, really smaller than a grain of rice. She said that a few of them were up to about like the size of a silver dollar, but for the most part, that's how small they were. But they rained down at such a high volume that they became visible across the ground and on roofs, and, literally like covered. People did what any of us would do. They went out and they touched it, they poked it, shoveled it up, and then the sickness began. After the first blob shower on August 7th, several Oakville residents became ill with similar flu-like symptoms after coming into contact with the Oakville blobs, including Sunny Barcliff's mother, Dottie Hearn. Patients presented to the local hospitals and doctors suffering from dizziness and nausea. Barcliff herself and a friend also had many bouts of nausea, fatigue, just a general feeling of unwell after collecting and touching the mysterious goop. One woman's newly adopted kitten, this is so sad, which lived outside, probably like a little farm cat, died just days later after a struggle with severe intestinal problems after it was witnessed to be ingesting the goo. One local police officer, David Lacey, recounted seeing the goop hit his windshield while on patrol at 3 a.m. Speaking on the television program Unsolved Mysteries, he compared it to Jell-O, and he said, "We turned on our windshield wipers and it just started smearing to the point that we could not even see through the windshield." Now, Dottie Hearn, and that would be Sonny Barcliff's mother, she described it as looking like hail lying everywhere. Both Hearn and Officer Lacey were among those who became extremely sick after being exposed to it. Officer Lacey recalled becoming very violently ill, struggling to breathe. While Dottie Hearn, she said she became so sick that she actually collapsed. She had such a hard time breathing, and she was actually admitted to the hospital for 3 days. Guess what her diagnosis was? An ear infection. Dottie Hearn's sudden and violent illness prompted her daughter, Sonny Barcliff, to send a sample of the blobs to the Hazardous Material Unit of Washington State's Department of Ecology. Many others did just as Sonny Barcliff had done, rushing samples to local hospital labs and state health departments. Under a microscope, the blobs revealed something very unsettling. They appeared to contain human white blood cells. Not animal, not plant, human. One hospital report purported that the blobs were merely concentrated fluid waste from an airplane toilet. You know how sometimes that happens? It's that blue ice stuff is expelled accidentally over a neighborhood. But the FAA, they immediately contradicted this claim. This spokesperson said, and that would be the Federal Aviation Administration Unit, said that this was unlikely as toilet fluids from airplanes are typically dyed blue, giving them the nickname, hence, blue ice. There was speculation that the effects on the residents and their animals was just a big coincidence that had nothing to do at all with the blobs. However, the fact that the raining goo could very well be associated with the ill health, that just adds like another layer of intrigue and horror to this. Now, even stranger, the rain of blobs didn't happen once. It happened again and again over several weeks. With so many becoming ill, and with the amount of incidents of goop rain falling on Oakville adding up to a total of 6 incidents of this goop rain, full-blown panic began to set in. What was this stuff? Was it toxic? Was it alive? Or was it something the government didn't want anyone to know about? The public, obviously, they wanted answers. So where did it come from? Now, some believed it was connected to the military. Oakville isn't far from bombing ranges, and during that summer, low-flying military helicopters were spotted in the skies overhead. Residents whispered that this was no storm, that it was a biological test. Another theory, jellyfish. The Navy had been dropping bombs miles off the coast, really just 500 miles off the coast. And some scientists suggested that the explosions could have vaporized schools of jellyfish carrying the microscopic fragments into the atmosphere, only for them to later rain down on Oakville. But meteorologists pointed out that that's just not how weather systems work, especially given the fact that this happened 6 times. Over the course of week. In the Netflix series, Files of the Unexplained, Paul Johnson, associate professor of biology at the University of North Georgia, said that it was plausible that something the size of small portions of jellyfish could be pulled up into the atmosphere and redeposited during a storm. Raining animals, quote unquote, is really nothing new, but Barcliff reported 6 events of Oakville blobs raining down from the sky, making it harder to imagine that jellyfish particles were floating in the air for so long. And the problem with that theory is also the fact that the cells that were found, they were not from jellyfish. On August 20th, 1994, the New York Times reported that the mystery blobs were once alive, following an analysis by the Washington State Department of Ecology from Sonny Barcliff's sample that she had sent in. Agency scientist Mike Osweiler, who tested the Oakville blobs, said they found a number of cells of various sizes, These results would appear to blow the human white cell story out of the water, as they reveal that the cells had no nuclei, something that you would see in human cells. Yeah, taking the jellyfish theory with it. This kind of life would lack nuclei, and it would be made up of prokaryotic cells found in bacteria and archaea. This lends credence to the evidence, the findings of the Washington State Public Health Department microbiologist Mike McDowell, who appeared on the TV series Unsolved Mysteries in 1997 to talk about the testing he did on the Oakville Blobs. In a clip from Netflix's Files of the Unexplained, McDowell indicates it was very uniform. There was no structure that we could see visibly or with a microscope. I set it up on various microbiological media and attempted to isolate the bacteria. Based on the results of Mike McDowell's test, the Washington State Public Department of Health released the statement that test cultures had yielded 2 kinds of bacteria, both of which are present in the digestive tracts of humans and other mammals. They can also be found in environmentally where you have like waste deposited in weird environmental situations, like say like in hot springs, something that's not the norm. They can travel in water and in aerosols. Based on his findings, McDowell believed that the goo might be some kind of carrier system, but also said he made it very clear that he didn't have any hard evidence to support this claim. His findings do show evidence to support the theory that this goo could very well be the result of biological weapon testing or formation. Unfortunately, McDowell's samples went missing shortly after this and before he could finish his work and, come up with a definitive answer. Given that information, guys, I mean, that, to this day, it remains unsolved. The findings and the samples, they all mysteriously disappeared. I don't know. What do you guys think? Brian, let me ask you first. Out of the theories of jellyfish, we have the ice, the blue ice, and then the potential bio weapon, let's just say. Do any of those seem plausible to you?
With the country's history, I would lean toward the bioweapon theory because, like you said, they examined it and there were 2 types of cells found. One was a very close to human white blood cell, but it lacked nuclei. Right. And then the other one is what they considered a pathogen. So all these people getting sick and the animals passing, and the fact that it happened 6 times in 3 weeks. The U.S. does, unfortunately have a history of, testing things and not exactly telling everybody what they're doing when they're doing it. France is a good example of that. There was a big one back in, I believe, 1951. The Point Saint Esprit incident. Do you guys remember that one?
Refresh my memory because I'm not sure if I'm thinking of the right thing.
Where there was a whole bunch of villagers back in 1951 that all of a sudden at the same time came down with fever. They were hallucinating, people seeing fires happening, people seeing demons and everything. And it was through the whole village.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then what they found out was they were trying to blame it off. They think the U.S., what the popular thing came out, was it wound up being, if I can't say this, you'll have to bleep.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is what it, from what I understand, what it turned out to be, but they were trying to blame it on a mold in a bread.
Yeah.
That's the official mainstream is trying to blame it on a mold in a bread.
Yeah.
I've had accidentally ate some moldy bread in my time and I didn't see my house on fire.
Yes.
But then there was a more recent one in 2016. It's not a hard case against the U.S., but because of the fact that the U.S. is so known for being active in company and research in different areas.
Yes.
There was the 2016 incident. They were testing a painkiller and they kind of skipped ahead on the trials.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, one passed and there were 5 serious injuries to other. It was being tested by BioTrial, a French company on behalf of a Portuguese pharmaceutical from Bio. Now, they're not saying the U.S. did it, but because of the history that we've done business with them before, you really probably think they were aware of it. So I kind of call me conspiracy theorist if you want, but they probably did a little testing on a small town to see what would happen, because 6 times in 3 weeks, and with the combination of what it was, it doesn't sound like it would occur in nature. And I don't even know if I know jellyfish are hardy little buggers, but I don't think they would survive in the clouds. The cells would, and to be rained down, I mean, I would think you'd be near freezing temperatures in the atmosphere.
Right. Which is why, with the meteorologist saying that that's not how weather systems would work in August, probably. Yeah, definitely would be contributing. And 500 miles and 6 times, that's seems impossible. Star Fox, what about you? What do you think about this? So we have the 3, the 3 possible explanations: airplane waste, jellyfish, or biological weapons testing. Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
Well, first off, great stuff for sure. Very interesting and bizarre. I'm going to stir the pot a little bit. Well, recently there was the poop cruise, right? Unfortunately, on Netflix, they talk about this. So it wouldn't be the first time that some sort of waste would come out of maybe a boat or an airplane. Not opposed to that. Also, there was I believe, humpback whale that was found in the Amazon. The reason it was found in the Amazon is because when a volcano erupted in the ocean, it blew it up into the air and basically tossed it like a Tom Brady Hail Mary, and it ended up in the good old Amazon. So those things do occur. Not too far-fetched to think that could happen to a group of jellyfish and they could be blown up. Also, tornadoes at ocean happen where they pull up all these other fish and toss them all around, no different than a tornado does to a house. Pretty interesting stuff right there. Also makes me wonder, like when we talked about Ramree Island and some of the other cases, yes, there was truth there, but there was also exaggeration. Remember, like, was it really 1,000 troops that went in and only 20 came out? Makes me wonder, could potentially maybe some little hidden gems have been added into this over time to make it maybe a little bit more creepy than it actually was. I want to play the hardcore devil's advocate right now. I personally don't think humans are as smart as people try to give credit to. Reasonings. We can't even create quality general use military gear for our people. I have plenty of friends that are in special forces that complain numerous times about how the Humvees are junk, break down all the time, that they're like Swiss cheese. A lot of the times their weapons are older than they should be. They don't disperse properly when they really should be. All right. That's just kind of one of my reasons. Also, again, we can't even do simple things and fix simple things correctly. So how are we going to be taking it to some sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger type level in a movie? It makes me just think a little bit that sometimes humans give too much credibility to humans. I mean, we can't even build a car correctly. How many cars have issues consistently all the time? Whole nother different talk. Again, we struggle to build quality computers that last. Most of our houses don't even last that long. I mean, when you look at like the Romans and Greeks, yeah, sure, we've done a little touch up on it. Ancient structures outlast modern day structures like crazy. I mean, we got to touch up bridges all the time. And then you look at the Colosseum, it's still cranking around, which again makes me think that modern day technology isn't necessarily as great as we really think it is.
Yeah, good points. Good points, guys. I tend to lean toward the biological weapons testing. Unfortunately, it's just if this is what it was, it obviously it went wrong. So that that would be agreeing with what you're saying, Star Fox, because it went horribly wrong. And then did they try it 5 more times? I don't know. Now, so picture you wake up one morning, you walk outside, your world is coated with this stuff that could be transparent flesh. Your family but you don't know that at the time. Okay. Your family, everybody starts to get sick. Your animals start to get sick. They may even pass away. And then, you ask the government and they kind of give you a shrug. The Oakville Blobs remain unexplained to this day. No final report, no neat answer. A lot of the samples went missing. The reports went missing. We just have a town that was forced to live with the question, what really fell from the sky that night?
That just leads me with just more questions. I mean, what is it? And has this guy spoken again? I mean, is it just one-sided? Is he the only person presenting this? Is there anyone that can verify that his stuff actually went missing? Just so many questions. Bizarre, though.
Yeah, I think it's just really, and that's what would be frustrating, is that it's really, you have these residents, of this tiny little town, population 1,000. I'm telling you, they're not getting the representation they need. I live on a small rural peninsula, and we have barely get any representation aside from the ridiculous amount of property taxes, that we pay. So yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me. Brian, would you give us your final thoughts on what you believe is the most plausible explanation for the blobs and why?
I'm sticking to my guns on this one, the bio experiment, because of the fact, what are the odds that something natural is going to happen 6 times in 3 weeks? I'd have to ask ChatGPT, and I'm sure that percentage isn't going to be very high. But also the fact, the U.S. has a history of it. We've done it to our own people. Look on Twisted But True Dark History. You can pull that series up. I'm sure it's on Tubi or something, and you can see documented cases of how nasty we are to our own people. And the fact that this was living cells. It's not like they were shot up into the clouds and hanging around for 6 events over 3 weeks. Lord Starfox touched on technology, but if you want to really dig deep down that rabbit hole, what we're given isn't necessarily is what they're capable of. So to say that, I have a friend who just recently, he has a rare blood disorder. 1 year ago, on his opposite leg, had a blood clot from his knee to his hip. When we're talking 1 year. Last time, they had to give him blood thinners. He was in the hospital for almost a month. He was on another month bed rest with blood thinners. And now a year later, he has the exact same condition because they took him off his blood thinners for his autoimmune disorder. And they were able to make a little slit, go in with a scope and suck the whole thing out. And he was up and walking in 2 days. So technology is advancing. Are we necessarily equipping our military with the best gear? You know what? Probably not. They're holding back. They say technology's in the military 20 years behind. I have a friend who sells military to various countries, and I hate to say it, but it's better stuff than what we're giving our own guys, and that's sad. With the bio weapons, I'm 99% sure that, it happened 6 times. That's not an accident.
Yeah, I think the technology is crap, but it's by design. They're doing this on purpose because they want to create anything. They can't wait to make something obsolete. So what do you have to do? You have to buy another one. We have in this tiny little house we bought up in the Olympic Peninsula, brand new. All the appliances are brand new because we're going to have short-term rentals coming in and out. And that's, how hard that is going to be on the appliances. Out of our, 6 appliances, 4 of them are either not working or broken. Brand new appliances. The powers that be do not fully equip our military. And that just infuriates me. And then the other thing about how we're lied to is, there was a little sickness that was a big deal a couple years ago. And I know that people did. Don't get me wrong. I know people got very sick from it. And many people lost their lives. However, proper medicine was withheld from people. A kind of generic medication that was, I'm not going to mention any names, was withheld from people. Something that had been given to people for years and years and years, people were taking this. And then all of a sudden it's too dangerous to take, even though it's something that would quickly cure a person of this sickness, which was supposedly caused by, a bat in a market. sold in that market, but whatever. So I don't know what else this could be. I agree with you. Star Fox, is there anything, what would you think would be a plausible reason? Like anything outside of what we've discussed could potentially be, because we can't take anything off the table because nobody knows what it is right now.
Preach. No, excellent stuff by both of you. Excellent points. Very bizarre stuff. I honestly have no clue. I just am thinking of questions that I would potentially ask, meaning, like I said, the glamour effect. All right, 1,000 troops. Well, it could have been 600, right? With the crocodiles. Could this maybe not have even had human cells in it? Could this have been something that is potentially just added in there to, I don't know, maybe 70% of all this was true, but then maybe 30% was just kind of fished in there to make us think a little bit more. Bizarre stuff. Also, again, I'm just going to rip on technology for a second. Man, we can't even do the local weather correct. I should have picked that as a job. I've never seen anyone be able to have jobs that are incorrect all the time. Yeah, today, partly sunny. There we go. That was a genius quote, right? And then also, too, a few other things. Japan, super technologically advanced. Recently, they were practicing with some stuff. One of their new toys made it off the ground for 6 seconds before crashing back down. Yeah, that was some great engineering, right? Also, too, unfortunately, space shuttles, right? How many times have those crashed or failed? A lot more times than we would be happy with. Again, gnarly stuff. Then, we have it. We can't even go into caves. We can't even figure out how to get into caves, and we can't even get to the bottom of the ocean. I mean, bums much? Just kidding. But yeah, just some bizarre stuff.
Now, good. Very good points. Just want our listeners to think, and you guys too, the next time it rains, when you hear it pattering against your window, imagine if it wasn't water at all. Imagine if it was something else, the stuff that fuels your nightmares. If you enjoy this episode, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Barb Hartman No Drama Bigfoot channel. Please also check out and subscribe to both Lord Starfox Midnight Lycanthropy channel and Brian Barber's Bigfoot Barbershop. Make sure your notifications are turned on so you won't miss any further episodes. If you have any suggestions on something that you'd like to see us cover here on Camp Nightmare Fuel, please drop it in the comments below or contact us.